Allie Provost reporting live from my handmade home in New York City. Bam! I am a blogger and a photographer based here in New York City. My type of photography and my style is very colorful, very fun, whimsical, and of course that is translated into my fashion style as well. I always loved fashion since the beginning of time, but when I got to college, I started working part-time for Kate Spade. And that was really where I was able to express my personal style, mixing prints, having a lot of fun with color, in a way that I never could have before. And I just stopped caring about it being socially inappropriate to wear a ball gown to go get my bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. I just didn't care. I was like, oh, I'm gonna wear a tulle skirt to brunch and no one can say anything. I remember when I first was trying to document my outfits, I was terrified to post my first mirror selfie. I remember I went up to my boss and I was like, can you go like this on Instagram? Because I was so terrified, but it was really fun and I just got a lot of good feedback and I really just kept doing that, and they were my work outfits, so no one really could say anything. I really wanted my living space to be almost a direct representation of my personal style. But when dealing with the interior decor space, it is very different than just trying to pick out an outfit because your design is much more permanent and things last much longer versus an outfit. If I don't like it, I can change it in the afternoon and it's fine. I move on with my day. But when you're looking at a couch, you're thinking, okay, am I gonna love this striped couch 4 years from now? Is it still going to stand the test of time? And I felt a lot of weight when putting things together. And so thankfully I hired a designer to read my mind essentially. I said, take my personal style and please translate it into my space because I can't navigate this the way that I want to. She really just took my Instagram, took my closet and transformed my space to look like this. I've always been an old soul. I would much rather go to tea time than go out to a bar and go crazy. So even when it comes to my style, I love pieces that will stand the test of time and I'll look back 10, 15 years from now and still love and cherish. Some people might describe my style and apartment as grand millennial, which is basically this movement where we are taking pieces from our grandparents' time and making them contemporary and making them updated and fun in a way that still honors the original pieces, but throwing in some millennial pink and some fun colors in there. I love the fact that we painted my ceiling. I think that is a wall, in a sense, that everyone really forgets about. And the fact that we painted it a darker color adds a lot of visual interest, really adds dimension to the space. I remember when my designer sent me the deck, I was like, oh, we're painting the ceiling. And she was like, yes. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. And she's like, it's very much a thing. Honestly, wherever I go, there will be at least one room that will always have the ceiling painted. Thankfully for this studio, I do have a lot of closet space. I do have a very large, I call it a step-in closet because it's not a true walk-in, but I am able to step into the closet. So these are really cool and they hold my sunglasses. They're actually nail polish holders. And I just command stripped them to the doors. So this is my entryway table. I really love it because it's the perfect introduction to the rest of the space. It allows for some decorative display here. I love these glass cases that allow me to both have function and also pretty to look at the same time. So I have some vintage pieces in here, some photos, and then on the actual table here, I love these hands that hold my keys. It's just the perfect way to say, take a load off, welcome home. It's very welcoming and they're just so fun. I also love having one handbag on display. So yes, this is a handbag. So this is my office. This is pretty much where I do all of my work. I come home at the end of the day. This is where I upload photos, I write my blog posts, and it really is an inviting space. It's comfortable. I have to say my desk chair here is the most comfortable desk chair. Above my desk, I also have some more storage. One of my favorite pieces is actually this. It's actually a prop that I had made for one of my first viral TikTok videos, and it's so sentimental to me that I just have to put it on display. And it's actually a Starbucks cup that I taped a Tiffany logo on. as it was a play on a influencer's day in the life here in New York City, where it was a joke about getting coffee at Tiffany's. So of course, Tiffany's wasn't open at the time, so had to make do. Being a fashion blogger, fashion is obviously a part of my job and my everyday. So I have to have a little bit of overflow from my closet here. And my favorite part about this section is actually this gown here. It was, to date, the best sample sale find I've ever found. It was such a statement piece, and in true sample sale fashion, it was for a model. It was a true sample, and I took it to my tailor, and she just completely reconstructed the dress, so now I can freely frolic Central Park in it. So my living area setup, I'm very thankful that I can at least fit a full-sized couch here. The fact that I'm able to fit this in a studio is a miracle in itself. So I wanted to make the living area a very intentional living space so that I could kick my feet up and relax at the end of the day. This is actually a television, which is probably my favorite thing about this living area because it's made to look like it's a picture. It doesn't stick out too much like a regular TV. I'm able to put a screensaver and it's actually my photo. So this is where I store a lot of my vintage jewelry. These earrings, I love having a dedicated space for them. And they're all costume jewelry. None of them are any fine jewelry, but the vintage pieces were definitely made at a higher quality than they are now. So anytime I can snag something vintage, I do in a heartbeat. In New York, I have to just embrace the fact that my storage has to be in the middle of my living room. It is how it is. I have tons of shoes in here. They're pretty much separated by color. This is definitely the more colorful side. And you know, when you have cute shoes, why not? Like, you can't say no to a bow, right? So, right? Honestly, nothing makes me feel more powerful than a fabulous pair of shoes. Like, to me, putting on a pair of shoes, you can just conquer the world. I'll be wearing sweatpants and I'll try on like a glitzy pair of heels and I'm like, oh, me in these shoes? Cool. For me, fashion is never something that needs to be taken seriously. It is meant to express your personality and your individual style. It is ridiculous sometimes to wear a giant bow on your head. I get it, but it brings me joy, and you know what? A lot of times it brings everyone else joy. Do what makes you happy with fashion, and everyone will be turning their heads in a good way. So this shelf here I use to display a lot of my purses, and there actually may be more bags than you think, because a lot of these are what are called novelty bags, which are bags that are not supposed to look like bags. These book clutches, they're not books, they're actually clutches. I didn't even know. Yeah. I can't help but merchandise everything, and I have like shoes hanging off of a bag, very much an ode to my past retail life. The way I worked with my designer to separate the spaces is by creating very distinct areas through the rugs. So I have two rugs, one in my living area and one in my bed area, and that really does a good job of dividing the spaces without a physical divider. So my bed area is one of my favorite spots in the apartment, and I love the fact that we did this statement wallpaper on the back. And we layered that with this photograph by Sharon Core. It is a photograph that's made to look exactly like a Wayne Thiebaud painting. The perspective, the scale, everything tried to be matched, and just thinking about the craft that went into creating that photograph spoke to me so much, and so that's why it's just proudly hanging above my bed. Being a photographer, I couldn't have my first piece be a painting or any other medium. It had to be a photograph, and it was really difficult finding something that matched my personality, and I thought this piece was whimsical and fun and still colorful. It does make me really want to eat cake all the time though. But I guess this way I can have my cake and eat it too. So, keeping with the handbags on display theme, we have more handbags on display. Like this one here is actually a handbag. I think it's just so fun to keep layering in different patterns, and the stripe of the dresser here really ties in with the stripe of the couch in the living area, and just the subtle details of the flower adds a lot of fun and youthfulness to the piece. On top of the dresser, we have really fun vintage pieces, which I love. This hat actually belonged to my mom pretty much when she was my age. She used to wear it to brunch all the time and called it her brunching hat. With any small space, you want to make it feel bigger, and one of the easiest ways to do that is through mirrors. So having a mirror above my dresser really allows light to bounce around to make the space feel much larger than it actually is. And on either side of the mirror, I have these 2 lamps. These are such a fun piece, and it's funny because even though my apartment is very pink, there aren't actually a lot of pink furniture pieces. So these lamps are one of the few pink moments that I have in the furniture. Hats are a really interesting thing to try to store because a lot of them are really delicate, and as a result, they take up a lot of space. So hanging them is really the best option, especially for me where I have a lot of them and I don't have enough space to store them all laying flat. So I just decided to dedicate one section of the apartment to be my hat wall. And they're very glamorously hung by fabulous nails here. But something like this is a hat that I wear all the time, you know, it just really adds something to the outfit. I just love the hats that are like off to the side. I am obsessed with this, to say the least. It is a piece of art in itself. It's made by a Black female-owned business in Brooklyn. She hand does all of these pearls and the crystal around the head of the hat. And it just, if this doesn't say, take me to the Queen's tea party, I don't know what does, right? It's really fun to wear. It is heavy, you get a workout while wearing it, but it is so fabulous, so worth it. So the kitchen that absolutely never gets used is really large for New York City standards. The fact that it's separated off from the rest of my space is a luxury in itself. And I really wanted to add my personal art piece in there, so I did a self-portrait called Under the Influence that makes a lot of subtle and some not so subtle references about the influencer industry, as well as a reflection on myself. And I'm really proud of it, and I really wanted to make sure I showcased it in my space. The fact that I don't take my space and my style too seriously, it really allows people to be invited in and have fun and relax. And I want people to feel happy and joyful and playful and just a space where you just walk in and you smile. Thanks for stopping by my New York City apartment. Can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye.
Hi, I'm Barry, and this is Jordan.
We're the Brownstone Boys.
This is our handmade home
in Brooklyn, New York.
So we started Brownstone Boys when we started our renovation. Jordan had the awesome idea to start blogging about it. We thought it would be something our family and friends would read, and that's pretty much it. But a lot of people read it and comment on it, and we have a lot of followers now. So it's been fun to share our story.
When we started renovation, we had so many questions about how to renovate, and we just weren't finding the right sources. So we were like, let's blog throughout our whole entire journey. And we found it was very helpful for other people in the process that we were going through. So we were looking for about 7 months for a place. We were looking all throughout Brooklyn. We knew that we wanted a brownstone. It was both of our dreams to have one.
So a brownstone is basically a row house. So they touch another house on the side. And what actually makes it a brownstone is the facade. There is brick behind the actual facade that you see, so it's a masonry building, but the actual facade is made of something called brownstone.
We spent about 7 months renovating the place.
It was a little bit of a mess too. It was chopped up into a bunch, I think it was a 5-bedroom place. They put a bedroom everywhere they could find like a corner. It was a lot of paint slopped on the woodwork, and we had it all stripped. And it literally looked like someone was murdered in the place. There was stuff splattered on the wall, there was running on the floors, it was a total crime scene.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't, you want to get it done when everything else is a mess too.
Yeah. And originally we were going to strip the wood just for us to repaint it, go back to a white color, but we stripped it and it looks so beautiful and so natural in the space that we were like, we have to keep this.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to preserve as much as we could. So things like the traditional layout with the stairs having their own hallway with the wall that's traditionally there. So the entryway is one of our favorite spaces because you really know you're in a brownstone when you walk into it. It's the traditional, stairway that goes up with the original banister and that sort of thing. And this is where you can really see that original woodwork that we stripped. This door was covered in paint. It was a very sloppy job, and
every
they painted
color of the
over.
rainbow was on this door.
It was a bright blue. It was a pink at one time, and it was just like sloppy and dripping down. And it just came out amazing. They stripped all the paint off it, including the original hardware.
When you walk into the place, the first thing you see is this banister. When we purchased the place, it was covered layers and layers and layers of white paint. So when we stripped it, this beautiful oak wood was exposed, and we knew we wanted to save it. There was a couple pieces missing, so we went ahead and replicated the molding here on the banister, and now it's definitely the showpiece in the house.
And it's really cool because you couldn't even see this detail that was in it when it was covered in paint. So when they stripped it, we were like, wow, that's amazing. Like, who knew that was under there?
The kitchen is definitely something that people gravitate towards. They come in, and then next thing you know, they're just hanging out on the stools in front of our kitchen island.
We really wanted that showstopper kitchen. So we wanted it to be very open. So we had to tear down a couple of walls to make this happen. So there was a structural wall here. We had to put this header, this beam up. There was another bedroom right next to it that we had to tear out too. So really created the open, airy, very bright feeling that we wanted to have here.
We knew we wanted an island in the middle of the space, so we went ahead with a waterfall quartz counter. My dream was always to have a farm-style sink, so we went with this apron front sink. Behind here we have a beautiful herringbone tile.
We wanted to do white. It's my fault. Jordan wanted something bright there. But
these are Barry's colors, by the way. The white, the charcoal.
Gray.
I like more color than Barry likes. Yeah. I like things bright, colorful. Barry likes the same three colors. He loves a good charcoal gray.
What about gray?
So you'll see that everywhere.
Gray, dark gray.
Yeah.
We wanted there to be at least one small natural wood feature. So although all the cabinets are gray and these shelves are gray, we did this one oak shelf just to sort of echo a lot of the woodwork that's in the place and bring it into the kitchen, warm it up a little bit.
When we got the cabinets, we got this one and it had the fronts on it, but we were like, you know what, for design purposes, let's go ahead and turn it on its side. We took off the fronts and then we just kind of left it as an exposed shelf, and we think it looks really great here.
We actually built these pendants ourselves from scratch. We were looking for pendants, and the ones that we liked were thousands of dollars. It was like every one that we saw, like, this one looks great. Oh, it's $2,000 each. And then the ones that were in our price range for $200 or $300 were just very generic. They were just very basic. So we decided to make them ourselves. So we actually got all of the components. We wired them ourselves. You've never done that before. So we watched a YouTube video to figure it out and completely wired them, put them together, installed them, and we haven't burned the place down yet. So we're
fingers crossed. So when we purchased this place, they had the kitchen right here in the middle of the space. It's kind of awkward, obviously we weren't going to do that, but because of that, when we demolished the area, the molding was affected. This place has that beautiful ornate molding from 1890, and we knew we were going to go ahead and replicate that. So we replicated all this molding to fit the original, and now this is our beautiful living room area.
So one of our favorite light fixtures in the place is this one right here. It is called a stick bulb. And it is really cool because it is made here in New York City from reclaimed material. And so this one specifically, they get the wood from water towers in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But we thought it was a way to pay homage to Brooklyn a little bit in our place, and we love it. It fits really well over the table, looks amazing. So we are here in the master bedroom, and this is, we wanted this to be very calming, kind of like sanctuary for us. So it's in the back of the building. It's kind of like a tree house outside, lots of tree branches in the summer. So a couple of things that we did here was, it's a common problem in these Brooklyn brownstones to have the old fireplace bump out that like sticks out of the wall, and it's usually in the way for furniture placement. So we just extended it so that it centered it in the room and sort of made a backdrop for the bed. And we painted it this color, which is Night Moon from Claire Paint. think it turned out really well. And we also had to fix the moldings here. So just to make it look like it belongs here, these were plaster moldings in this room. So it was a project to restore these moldings as well.
Another favorite thing in the master is these shelves over here. We actually took a tabletop that was sitting in our basement. We cut it to the right size, we stained the wood, and we used that wood to create these beautiful open shelves.
It is something we're pretty proud of. I'm originally from New Orleans, and so I have my reminder of home with a vintage map of New Orleans here. And then I love nautical stuff, and so this is a nautical map of New York Harbor. So just made sense for us, you know, my old home and my...
I'm originally from Las Vegas, where there is no history, so fortunately I don't have a vintage map of Vegas in here. So welcome to the brightest room in the house. This is our guest bedroom. This mural that you're seeing behind me is an original. A good friend and old colleague of mine, Lauren Kalin, a muralist, painted this from scratch. We just told her that we kind of wanted something vintage and botanical, and she created this big showpiece in the place now. We love it.
What I thought was like the coolest part of the process is after she painted the entire mural, she went over the entire thing to give it this sort of like vintagey look and feel with wood stain.
Wood stain.
But look, it was actually a last minute decision. Like she wasn't even planning on doing that. She painted it and it looked great. And then she's like, "Do you have any wood stain?" I was like, "Why? What are we staining? Where's the wood?" And it looks like, I was a little skeptical at first when she said wood stain, but I can't imagine it any other way. It looks awesome.
To tie it in, we added some other botanical posters. We added the skylight with our renovation.
All right, so welcome to our pride and joy of this renovation. We built this bathroom from scratch. It was a little weird bedroom. You couldn't even fit a bed in here. It was kind of useless space. And so we thought it was a perfect size for a bathroom. And since it was a totally new space that didn't exist before, we really wanted it to have a little bit of a vintage feel and feel like it has been here for a while. So we went with very classic, like hex floorette on the floor, classic subway tile on the wall.
Very New York. Yeah.
It's very New York. You see this tile everywhere in New York. So it is very classic. And we have, of course, the original woodwork and the shutters. Nice clawfoot tub. This is actually a new clawfoot tub, and we got a new one just because they're way lighter, even though it is cast iron. It's like a fraction of what the original ones were. And then one thing that we really love, as you saw, is this vintage door that we put in. We got this from a salvage yard, and they fit it to the space. And
yeah, we cut the space for the glass here. We found this chicken wire glass. We installed it, and then of course we just wanted to make it as vintage as possible, so we turned it into good old WC. I feel like no home is really finished, so we're looking forward to all those small.
Yeah, there's a few little things we have left. It's always going to be 98% finished.
Thanks for coming up the stoop and into our home.
See you guys soon.
Hi, I'm Summer Rain, and this is my handmade home in Brooklyn, New York. Summer Rain Oaks, and I live with my pet chicken, Kippy, and I am the creator of Homestead Brooklyn, which is a blog and a YouTube series to really connect people back to nature, particularly people living in the city. I think I have a little over 750 plants. The last time I checked, and I have to update my spreadsheet because I'm nerdy like that, it's probably a little over 400 different species or cultivars or varieties of plants, and this has been kind of like years in the making. I've lived here actually for 14 years, so the space was pretty barren when I moved in, and I think now it really, really feels like a home to me. One of the first things that I wanted to do to kind of warm up the space, I ended up getting a Ficus lyrata, which is a fiddle leaf fig. It was about, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall when I brought it in, and it just completely transformed the space. Kippy, oh, you're so tall. You're so tall. You want to get down? Okay. Soft landing on the cushions. This is my first plant. This is my fiddle leaf fig. I actually cut it back by about 2/3. I've had it for probably now my 10th year, going into my 10th year, so it is a beast, and it holds a special place in my heart because it's the first plant that I got. And that's part of the thing that I like about like this place is that the plants have really made this their home as much as I have. So it's nice to be able to find these like little pockets for these particular plants. This is more of a cacti and succulent corner. So the bedroom actually used to be my office space. My goal for that space had always been to create a vertical garden on that wall. Kippy, do you want to be in this? Want to come up here? Oh. Hold on. She's gonna poop. It goes straight into the compost if you're wondering. All right, sorry about that. It's like having a incorrigible child. Living with a chicken is full on. It just is. It is what it is. It just adds to the weirdness, but that's good. You just gotta own it sometimes. So this is my sub-irrigated green wall. Basically, these are glorified gutters sitting on rafts in felted pockets. And the sub-irrigation system means that the water comes from below. And so how that actually works is that there is a tube up here that cuts through to the back of my house into the sink, and I could turn it on from there. And then the water comes through the pipes and feeds it on the bottom. And then once that one fills up on the top, it then fills to the second row, third row, fourth row, and fifth row. This is reinforced. Whenever anybody wants to think about building a green wall in their house, they have to consider the amount of weight that's going on the wall. So this actually used to be my closet. It just seemed like a waste of light because all that window light was coming in, and I would try to block it away from my clothes and so that it wouldn't bleach my clothes. And I was like, this is stupid. Like I should just move my clothes out of here and just turn this into a garden. It may seem a little taxing to have to water all these, but what's great about it is I have these things on humidity mats. So these are mats that kind of you water and then the water comes up through the bottom of the terracotta pot because terracotta is porous. My favorite DIY project that I ever did was my first DIY project that I did with my dad, which is the mason jar garden that's in the kitchen. I really love that one in particular because it is my first like father-daughter DIY project. My dad is so fun to do DIYs with. And it was a totally upcycled project. Like it was just found wood, mason jars, and then I think the only thing we bought were Tapcon screws and hose clamps. So this is my kitchen space, and there is a lot of handmade elements within this kitchen. Even this countertop was just made basically for this space. This has a hole cut out in it because I could throw my composting here when I chop up vegetables and take out the compost, put it in the freezer, and take it to the green market. This was my old stove. So instead of tossing it, basically turned it into a sub-irrigated planter. If you look up here, this is a flexible flyer turned into a plant shelf, but also a place where you can hold your pots and pans and your cups. And if you look over here, this is a swingable shelf, like vertical garden. This is actually inspired by this broom handle. So this broom handle was sitting in the corner of this area forever since I moved in here. I wanted to create like a green wall, but I still wanted to see the space of the exposed brick. These are all upcycled boards, hand cut holes, just some rope and some zip ties, and the broomstick. Being able to like actually try to grow plants that typically wouldn't be considered a quote-unquote house plant, even though that's a totally human construct, is very interesting to me. And sometimes I fail, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes I try again. It's a lot of trial and error and experimentation. I get a lot of people who come in, they're a little bit slack-jawed. You can see they're just like, oh my God, look at all these plants. But a lot of times people say, this really reminds me of my grandmother's house. There's some element that feels like someone is coming home. I do think that the plant shop by my house like gets a lot of business afterwards because I think if people like get inspired and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go get a plant right now. Thanks again for stopping by my home. I hope you enjoyed the tour, and I'll see you again later.
Hi, I'm Carrie, and this is my handmade home on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I am am a former beauty editor, freelance writer, YouTuber, and interior design student. I would say my interior design style is, in general, eclectic, overwhelmingly. A little kitschy, a little quirky for sure, and also fun and feminine a little bit, yeah. I know a way that a lot of people separate their studios is with a bookshelf or something like that, and I really wanted to emphasize the open layout and also the light in here, so I didn't want to have anything blocking off the middle. And so I just used kind of rugs and intentional decor pieces like a bookshelf and things like that to separate the space without putting up any walls or partitions. I think the first thing that I bought was my periodic table of trash poster. I had wanted a larger kind of art piece, so I bought that, and it helped set the tone for the color and kind of just the quirkiness of the space. So this is basically my little dining area, and now that I freelance and work a lot from home, also turns into an office space. These salt and pepper shakers were a housewarming birthday gift from one of my best friends, and actually were the first like black and white pattern that I had in here. And I remember saying to her that I was gonna have too many black and white patterns, that I was gonna look crazy. And then I flipped the script and really committed to the mismatched black and white. And so, thank you, Kaylee. This is my largest real plant in the apartment. She's the only one with a name. Her name's Loretta. And I take very good care of her. She's grown a lot. We're friends. Love her. This bookshelf is one of the first DIY projects in the space, and also to this day, one of my favorite. I saw this wallpaper pattern and loved it and needed a use for it, so I decided to do this. I think it really helps this part of the apartment feel separate because this is like an accent wall without having to commit to a wall. I really like statement earrings specifically, and jewelry in general, so I found this little spinning acrylic earring holder, and I probably am pretty much at capacity now, but it's great and super functional. This area was just a mirror, and then it turned into a plant area somehow. Most of these are actually real, some of them are fake, which I am planning to swap them out. But this arched mirror was like probably another one of the most like intentional buys. My favorite piece in my apartment by far is this clock that's back there behind me. It's from my grandparents' collection of antique clocks. It has a lot of character, and I think it's from the 1800s, which is really cool. And this is kind of a more recent addition, I would say, within the last 6 months, is my ceramic zebra under the table. I have a lot of zebras in this space, which was kind of not intentional and now is intentional. And I saw that, and like immediately, like heart was racing. I was like, give me this, I'll Venmo you right now. And so I have that now, and it's a major conversation starter, and also really brought the space together over here. I also have this light up sign that I've probably only ever turned on like 4 or 5 times total. It's very bright, but it's cute. It lights up in pink. My other favorite thing in here is a little framed card that's on my gallery wall, which I got in my high school photography class, like sophomore year when I was 15. And it just says, I don't know, I'm still learning. And it's been through like 8 apartments with me, and I don't know, almost 10 years now, and is torn up and has, you know, been a bookmark and been everything. And I just think it's a really cute little reminder, and I have it in a floating frame. So a few months after I moved in and already did some DIYs in the space, I wanted to tackle the kitchen next. So the very first thing I did was put marble contact paper on the countertops, but then I wanted to do more, and I had seen peel and stick backsplash on YouTube and various places, so I wanted to try that. Also knew I liked wallpaper, and the wall was plain, and so I was down to do that. The last thing though was the floors, which were like those vinyl squares that you have in like classrooms at school, and I figured out that temporary floor planks are a thing, and there's a bunch of different types, so they don't have to be adhesive. I moved to New York with a set of like towels that I had gotten at Target. When I decided I wanted to do more to the bathroom, I just played off of the things I already had and committed to that blue color. And I got wallpaper, which was in a pattern that the girl who did my other wallpapers happened to make. and I love her. Having a bunch of random things is definitely something that I had to deal with a lot in this space, and also I just like a lot of different stuff. So I just feel like it's about finding little connecting pieces, and also just committing to it and not being worried about, you know, one very specific style. All right, thanks for stopping by Chateau Spicy Curry, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and this is my handmade home in New York City. I am a mural artist and interior decorator. I'm not a minimalist in any sense of the word. I love color, I love big patterns, I love big statements. So if I have a client who's letting me do that, then I'm absolutely going to go for it. If I'm going to be doing this for a living, you know, I got to walk the walk and talk the talk. So I wanted to make sure that this space was totally me and totally mine. Okay, where should we start? Favorite spot is definitely in the living room. I get the best sunlight in there, so it's a huge reason why I love that room. It's flooded with light in the morning hours. This is really my safe haven, my sanctuary. This is where I work every day. When it comes down to it, I'm a girly girl, and I love the pink in there, and it's bright and colorful, and so on the day-to-day, I'm in there with all my plants and my pink wall, and I'm happy. It actually all started because of the rug that I chose in here. It has some really fun colors, pinks, oranges, blues, and I figured, okay, I'm gonna just pick some colors from this rug and incorporate a mural into the space. I've always been a plant lady. I've had lots of plants in all of my apartments, but this is probably the brightest apartment and brightest room I've ever been in, so I knew this is my chance. This is my chance to really make a jungle happen. And it's, you know, it's gonna be an ongoing continuation, but right now I'm doing pretty good. Welcome to my hallway. Let's talk about the hallway. It's like a rainbow of 5 colors, and those colors actually draw in the colors of every single room in the apartment. So, you know, the pink stripe is pink from the living room, the red and the blue are red and blue from my bedroom, the black is from the kitchen, and the yellow is from the bathroom. So it's the central point of the apartment, and the colors in that mural are pulling from every piece, and so it kind of ties everything together. Honestly, I'll tell you what, it was because I had leftover paints. Like, that was what I ended up choosing those colors for that mural. It was because I had paints left over from all the other pieces that I'd done. I was like, you know what? I got tons of paint sitting around. Let me just use what I already have. The reason that I wanted to do the mirrors was for 2 reasons. First of all, to reflect the mural, so you can see the mural through the mirrors, which is very fun. It almost like alleviates a little bit of the work on my end. Like, I could have muraled the entire hallway, but that seems like a lot more work than just reflecting it. And it was all purposeful placement, so like this round is like reflecting this round edge, so like when you look in there, you see the roundness of that side, and this long one is here because of this like long piece, so it reflects perfectly. So there was a bit of a method to the madness, and as you see this, there is a little bit of madness going on in here, and probably in here too somewhere. The other reason is that like I said before, the reason I love that front room is because it gets tons of natural light, and so especially in the morning, as the light is shining in really bright, it brings a lot of the light into this part of the apartment. So when I wake up, if I'm in this room, I still get some of that natural sunlight from the front room carrying all the way through because of the mirror. And it's also just kind of nice. Like, there's this first big mirror, and that's the mirror that as I walk out of my bedroom, so like if I need to check my hair on my way out the door or whatever, I've got a mirror there. Welcome to my bedroom. I really wanted to create like kind of a relaxing, more relaxing sanctuary. I love that my space is so colorful and lively, and I want people to feel excited, but I did want to feel relaxed when I come to bed at night. So I chose some blue tones to kind of make it feel calm. So I did the headboard here because it's a tight space and I couldn't fit my old bed frame that had a headboard on it. And I really wanted to make these sort of fake sconces work. And so I kind of planned it all at the same time. So you can either install them on sockets on a wall that has light sockets, or you can leave the cord on the exterior, which is what I did. And I just have these little wire cover. So from there I figured, okay, how do I decide to paint around this? I didn't really want to paint over it because it could have looked weird on the outside of the plastic, so I decided, okay, I mean, I can kind of play with the width of this and make it work within this headboard. So I came up with this miniature arch series, but I still wanted to work in the blue somehow, so that's where the florals came in. This is my jewelry drawer. Tons of vintage earrings and stuff in here. Thanks to Mom. These are from Mom, those are from Mom. How 80s are those? I looked at those, I was like, Mom, can I take those? She's like, yeah, I don't want those. I was like, I love them. She thinks I'm insane. Where's one of my favorite things? There it is. It's one of those things that used to clip cardigans closed or something, but I use it when I'm wearing shirts like this that have like a little collar, because it kind of looks like a necklace. Lots of fun things. All of the light fixtures in here were your typical, I'm not sure I'm allowed to say this, but as we like to call them, boob lights. I don't know if you guys are, if I'm allowed to say that word. But anyway, I call them boob lights because they're like round and they have the little screw in the middle, so you look up and you're like, that looks like a boob on the ceiling. It was, I mean, every single place that you see a light, there was another boob light. So I was like, okay, this is just not gonna fly. And I've always just been fine with it in old apartments and I've never thought about replacing them, but I was like, okay. It was so worth it, and I love how all of the lights look. It just gives such an elevated look to the space without spending a ton of money. So this mural, honestly, it was kind of a last-minute decision. I hadn't really planned out any mural for this space specifically. I was open to it, it just wasn't something that I made a plan for until I saw things in place. And choosing the black and white was really for two reasons. I already had black paint, and the rug has a good amount of black and white in it, and I wanted this room right in the center to kind of have a little bit of that neutrality, knowing that there was gonna be a lot of fun colors happening in all the other places. And I wanted the rug to be the hero. The statement in the kitchen is this rug, which is a rug I bought when I went to Morocco a few years ago. I love this rug. It's like a keepsake for life, and it has a lot of amazing colors in it. So I just went with a black and white, you know, simple geometric situation, you know, and it just kind of connects around the window a little bit, and it kind of leads you into the bedroom by ending right here in the corner. This mug my friend Rachel gave to me, and it's the goddess of the home. Her name is Hestia, which my business name is called Nestia. It's about nesting and feeling settled in your space. As I have obviously done, I have really nested into this apartment, and so that was where the business name came up. So I love having her on display because she really was the inspiration toward, you know, the business that is now my career. So it's a little inspirational corner. Whenever I look over here, I know that she's watching over me, the goddess of the home. Thanks so much for touring my apartment. Bye.
I feel very Martha Stewart. Welcome to my home. I'm usually in my pajamas. Hi, I'm Marcella, and this is my handmade home in Brooklyn, New York. When I first came into the space, it was huge and it was gigantic and it felt very empty. And because of how high the ceilings were, it was just too high of ceilings to just be a studio space. So that's when I built the 3 guest bedrooms that are the downstairs rooms, and then the upstairs, which is my room. I rent out the 3 downstairs rooms on Airbnb. So I got a map and I just put it on a cork board, and it's a place where guests can push pin where they're from all around the world. It's pretty full, and it's pretty awesome to see all the different places that guests have come from. My style. Well, definitely funky, hence the name, the Funky Loft. Very eclectic, colorful, which I never planned for any of that. Ever since I was a kid, I would go thrift shopping with my mom and just start collecting little vintage pieces here and there, and everything, yeah, nothing went with each other, but it all kind of worked out. My motto with design is, if nothing matches, then everything matches. So here we are in my kitchen. For the refrigerator, I got it from a store in Burbank, California that finds and refurbishes old stoves and refrigerators. I had them painted that red, and then I put that Coca-Cola decal sticker on it. As you can see, there's lots of little notes. Guests just all of a sudden started taking notes and writing them and putting them on the fridge. And as you can see, the interior of the fridge, the color kind of matches the color of the kitchen. I really did not mean to do that. It just serendipitously worked out. I'm usually not that matchy-matchy, but there you go, you know, everyone has their flaws. I've been collecting these cabinet knobs for more than a decade. Every time I'd go out and I'd see a different random cool knob, I would just buy it. And I had a bag of knobs when I was like 15, just knowing someday they'll go to use. And then when I got this place, I was like, I'd always kind of wanted a black and white tiled kitchen. But since it's really expensive, I just got these peel tiles that can be removed very easily. Now I have my little diner type kitchen. Okay, here we go. Put on your sunglasses. Bathroom. Oh, the bathroom. It is very bright. It is very loud. I found this vintage wallpaper, like a jungle wallpaper. Because it was vintage, it only had a few yards, so I couldn't do the entire bathroom. So with the wallpaper that I had, I put those on the walls, and then the rest of the walls I matched the orange in the lion. I've always liked grandma's kitchens from like the 60s, the 70s, you know, with all those like really random knickknacks on the wall, like have a sunny day, like you deserve more. The sun is always shining somewhere. Just because you cannot see it doesn't prove it isn't there. Where did you get this, Grandma? I actually typed in like ugly knickknacks in Etsy and then put them up on the wall. I don't think they're ugly. Don't hurt their feelings. They're beautiful. They're amazing. No, they're a little ugly. And you don't have to like it, but I like it. To each his own. I don't like beats, but you know, some people like beats. Whatever. I don't play the piano. I don't know. Yeah, none of these are actually my family. This little girl is not my grandmother or aunt or anyone. I saw it in an antique store and I thought she was adorable. When I first moved into space, I actually had painted that entire wall black chalkboard paint, and I wanted to have like a giant chalkboard wall for people to write and draw and do whatever. It just didn't work. The black was so black, and it was such a big wall, and people couldn't get up to the top, and it was a total failure. It's too big of a wall to just have one bland color. So that's when I was like, wallpaper. And I found these cherries, and I think they're adorable. This is Elvira. I just sprayed her. She was one of my first plants that I got here, and she's like, she just won't stop growing. I can't stop buying plants. They clean the air and they look great, and they're usually pretty cheap. So if you're on a budget and you're looking to design, plants are a great way to start. I have a slight obsession with velvet. Oh my God, velvet's like my chocolate. I just can't say no, man. I want people to feel comfortable here, going, oh, I don't feel like I have to tiptoe around. So let's check out one of the guest rooms. It's called a room with a view. I call it that because there's a window in the room that looks out into the living room. That was a reclaimed window that someone was selling. They were selling a whole bunch of old windows, so I snatched that up and then we built the wall around it. I found this local muralist on Instagram and I asked her to come over and I was like, can you just do something with this wall? I'm kind of at a loss for the room and I love your work. Just do whatever. Just go have fun. And she did this. I kind of took the color scheme from that for the rest of the room. I was bored one day and I had a bunch of old books and I wanted to do an entire wall of this, which I kind of love it, and I like that it's not fully on, so it kind of has some texture. I had lived in an old warehouse in Los Angeles with a bunch of lofts, and one of my neighbors, she had a swing in her loft, and I would just go over to her place just to swing on it. So now that I have a place with such big, tall ceilings, it's perfect to have a swing. And it's cool. Most people, when they come into the space, they're adults and they haven't been on a swing since they were a kid. So immediately when you sit down on that and like your feet lift off the ground, a huge wave of nostalgia just kind of like goes over you and it's like, oh God, this feels amazing. Why don't I swing more often? Who doesn't want to swing? up to my room. My room is kind of like the leftover room, so whenever I found something that it's just like, oh, this doesn't work downstairs or whatever, I just kind of put it up in my room. I do have my favorite velvet furniture piece up there though, so I am being selfish and keeping that to myself. It's a gold velvet swivel chair with a matching stool from the 70s. It's amazing. It kind of bothers me when I go into homes and I feel like I'm in a museum. You just can't touch anything. I just wanted a cozy feeling, which I really like, a very homey feeling. It's nice. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Hi, my name is Corey, and welcome to my handmade home in Brooklyn, New York. I have been making since I was a very young kid. Currently, it's paper plants, which you'll see around the house, papier-mâché objects for the home like vases and lamps and trays. And then also I've been doing sewing, so I've been making lots of pants, trousers. I only say trousers because every time I say pants, someone from the UK is like, gross, it's trousers. My grandmother taught me how to sew and make quilts, and I also used to make lots of drawings, portraits. You know, on road trips, my brother and I would sit in the back seat and he would read Hardy Boys, and I would sit there with a yellow ruled notepad and just draw and draw and draw and draw. So it's always been my passion. This place, I moved in 10 years ago, and so some things are exactly the same as they were 10 years ago, but adding different things has just happened gradually. Sometimes just because I just follow my nose and I get excited about a different technique or skill that I want to learn, and it's hard for me to part with things, and so I'm like, well, if I move this a little bit, I'll just shove this new thing right here and work out. Working with paper was something that I picked up from my day job. One of the projects I had to do many years ago was make a life-size baby giraffe out of craft paper, you know, the brown paper. And I was like, oh, this is like a cool medium. You know, it never occurred to me before. This is a cool medium to make sculpture with because it's inexpensive and it's ubiquitous and it's easy. So this living room here, it doesn't get any direct light, so I can't have any houseplants in the living room. And I really wanted a fiddly fig, which everybody you know was crazy about fiddly figs, you probably remember. So I made one from paper, and it was just sort of an addictive process, and just kept making more. And then, yeah, that's how it happened. You know, my methods for making the paper plants have evolved over time. So this one is like a little more cartoony, but yeah, this is the beginning. The first few were a little more stylized, and then just by doing a bunch of them, I started to see that they were becoming slightly more realistic looking. This we have ornamental yam, the begonia, and a pitcher plant. Paper, of course. Cordyline, that one's called. It's smaller. I think the real one is a bigger experience. This is a pilea, a begonia. I love begonias. You'll see lots of begonias in the apartment. This is a Shiraz maple, which changes color throughout the season and then has a moment when it is pink. I don't know if it's quite this hot pink, but with paper you get to take a little liberty, so I've captured it at that moment in time, so that's kind of fun. Mother Nature's just like always giving us inspiration, so I think I'll probably never run out of things to make with the paper plants, especially begonias. I really like begonias. I have a medium, paper oxalis, and a cloche. That is just an IKEA cloche, but I painted the base. Oh, here's my book. Handmade Houseplants. Came out 2018, but it's available wherever books are sold. I started putting the paper plants online, social media, and then the publisher reached out, Timber Press, and wanted to make a book. I really enjoyed it. Really, some of the plants before the process, I had already made them, and then in the process of making the book, I had to invent new ones. And so from here, we're about 15 minutes to the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. So it's like one of my favorite haunts to go and find real inspiration in real life. Some things I made have been rare. Oh gosh, like back in the day, you couldn't find a pilea, which is what this one is. It was like kind of a precious, special thing. And so that was one of the early ones I started making from paper, just so I could have it. But now, like 7 years later, they're literally at the corner store grocery. Out front, they have a little plant section and they have them. Times change. So one of the favorite paper plants that I've made is called Rex begonia vine. I just really love the pattern on the leaf, and so at some point I painted the vines on this table. That one is called an epimedium, I believe. Maybe that one is like Pink Lady something. That one is a sweet potato vine. It does have a specific name. I forgot what it is. I remember the names, but I have made dozens of these plants. I don't always remember the exact name. It takes me a minute sometimes. And then it's a thing where I have read it, and then I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce it because I've only ever read it. But this one, not in this case. Now, this one is called a ornamental sweet potato vine, based on the real thing. Paper, of course. The Rex begonia vine, you'll recognize from the table. And here we have sassafras. These two little things are sassafras. So this is a very simple one to make. It's in the book. So like for a beginner project, it's pretty easy, but I happen to like this plant because the roots make root beer. This is actually an invasive, which is kind of a good reason for it to be made from paper. It's called porcelain berry vine. Look, I didn't even trip over it that time I said the name. This is tapioca and another sweet potato vine. And these are some paper mushrooms. These were in the Better Homes and Gardens. Paper mache tray. Okay. So a bunch of years ago, I don't know, maybe 10, I did a project for my job and I made some paper mache cactus, and it was really fun. And I thought, I like this, but I wanted less like sculptural things and more objects for my home. So the first thing I made was a tray, just a simple cardboard tray that I covered with layers of newspaper and glue, and then painted it with acrylic paint, going on like 7, 8 years ago. So she's hanging in there. This is called Solar Eclipse plant. Yes, this one I actually made using a Silhouette Cameo machine. It's like kind of like an old school printer. It goes in and then it cuts it. So made the files and then cut it on the machine this time, just because it has this like serrated edge. Paint and gel pen. And a lamp I made, again out of paper mache. Pendant lamp, another paper mache project. Oh, and this frame, no surprise, it's another paper mache project. But this is a picture of my mom that I really like from the 70s, and she has just got a new bike. And on the back, her beautiful handwriting, it says, "I tried to smile, but the sun was in my eyes." I don't know, I just think that's just kind of funny. Another paper mache vase. I think this is maybe one of the early ones I made. And the plant is a... I have it. It's a drink. It's a cocktail with mint.
Julep.
No. Mojito. This is an elephant ear mojito. Okay, so this one exists in a big urn at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. So this is an instance where I literally walked past the real thing and I was like, look at those splatters, look how magical, and I had to make it. And this is the same invasive porcelain berry vine that I also, stuck in the hallway. She's just creeping around. She keeps invading everywhere. This one is kind of fun because I made it specifically so that if I wanted to do a floral arrangement, nothing's gonna get ruined. So that works out well. Actually, this one is the same, made to have just a 3-inch cylinder inside. So, flowers. I just think it's fun because you just take trash, cut it up, cover it with paper mache, paint it. New thing. Okay, so there's an entire set. I think there's 5 of them, but prints by the artist Martin Mazzora. I'm such a fan of American music, of all types, from Old Dirty Bastard to Loretta Lynn, really all types of American music. So I fell in love with these because I love that era of country music. Probably my proudest thing, and it's just because it's sentimental and it's also not just the object but the process of making that, is when Ryan and I first started dating, we decided to make cigar box guitars together, like third date through sixth date kind of thing. So he's a lefty, so this is his, and this is mine. They still work. I probably like my studio table the best. You know, there's nothing fancy about it, but that's where I sit and do my work and have ideas. So of course with the paper plant making, I use tons of floral wire, corsage tape or floral tape, markers and pens and gel pens and color pencils, fun stuff. My bulletin board, which is just like always changing, and I just randomly pin stuff up there. There's my little crush corner over there. We got Johnny Cash and Hank Williams and Donald Glover and Memphis Minnie. Oh, this one is kind of fun. It has a funny name. It's called Sweet Caroline Bewitched After Midnight. That whole thing. Yeah. It's a sweet potato vine. There's so many. And you know, it's kind of cool to make them out of paper because they typically only last in the summer. You know, that's the one everybody puts in their planter boxes on the windowsill. Sweet potato vine. So some years ago I left New York and I went to work on an organic farm in California. I spent the season there, and there was a dog called Rex, best dog. So at some point I made a little paper puppet of him and I wrote a little song about him. I'm gonna show you Rex because he's very cute. There is an old dog, he's our favorite mutt, but he tears through the garbage and he follows our truck. He's a filthy old dog and he likes to run, but if you go on after him, he's doggone it gone. I just did it anyway, even though I knew it was going to be embarrassing, I just did it anyway. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, my grandmother taught me how to sew when I was pretty young, and so I've always been sewing. And then over 2020 stay-at-home times, I really just buckled down and designed pants that fit me, which so many people know that buying pants, especially off the rack, is like sometimes terrible. There's always fit issues, so I came up with the Anju pants and put them on the internet, and people like them. So now there's a pattern, a sewing pattern, for people to make palm pants. Polka dots, can't go wrong with polka dots. This one has a side zip, but these are my Frida Kahlo pants. Obviously, you gotta love Frida. I enjoy figuring things out, whether it's pants or plant or whatever. I really enjoy the process. And once I've gone through that, I also find it enjoyable to back up and then figure out a way to teach it to other people or just share. Yeah, so trousers. Hey, thanks for being here. See you later.
Hi, I'm Rajiv, and this is my handmade home in New York City. When people ask me what I do for a living, I say I'm a movie star. I am a washed-up movie star. I kind of live an unusual life where leisure and my profession, the lines are very skewed. Something that was a hobby for 10 years for me sometimes becomes a profession. That's why I spend a lot of time on doing the things that I love doing. I started a business about 10 years ago doing calligraphy called Letters and Ink. I was originally doing things like wedding invitations, and then one day a friend suggested that I approach some local cafes and restaurants about redoing their chalkboards. Going into restaurants and saying like, hey, can I redo that chalkboard? And be like, why? Because it's ugly and I can make it beautiful and maybe it'll help your business. How much? Nothing. Okay, knock yourself out. So I'd do it, and then I'd leave my business card, and then it would rain. And when it would rain, I would get a phone call. Hey, can you come back and do that chalkboard? And that's when I would charge them. I got some press, and then word spread, and I carved out a little niche for myself. When I think about the projects that really stand out over the last 10 years, the main one is this room that I completely covered in chalk for the Kips Bay Show House. I worked on that project for about a week, night and day, and then it was open to the public. And the question that everybody asked was, can I touch it? And we said, absolutely, touch it and see what happens. There was this tension between the people in the room and the walls. A lot of people didn't believe that it was real chalk. They thought maybe it was chalk and that we had sprayed it with some kind of spray. And I never do that. If you spray chalk work, you lose a lot of the powdery edges. And we wanted it to be impermanent. We wanted people to understand that you put it up and if you brush up against it, it is gone. So in my space, I thought, why don't I paint the walls and the ceiling of one space with chalkboard paint and then kind of go crazy. I did that with the intention of changing it regularly, and it has been up for 8 years. It has gotten weathered over the years from people passing through. I didn't anticipate what it would look like, but I actually really like the remnants of architecture that has been worn down with time. Lots of bags and coats. The kitchen was the only room up until recently that I didn't love in this apartment. I decided it was time to make this kitchen a little jewel box, make it everything that I have ever dreamed of in a kitchen, and most of the stuff I was able to just do myself. So the very first thing I started with was the wood paneling. I wanted the kitchen to feel like an old pre-war tenement kitchen. And it was really simple to just get this pine wainscoting, nail it up, and build up the moldings, the baseboards and the chair rail. I had a contractor come in and put in the crown molding. That wasn't there either. The other huge job that I did myself was I painted the cupboards. And that was a lot of work. I took all the doors off. I took all the shelves out. Everything was painted with oil paint, so it had to be primed and sanded and then painted 2 or 3 times. The glass wasn't this glass. It was just this frosted glass that was very modern looking. And something I love about old buildings is when you can look at the windows and you see these wavy panels of glass that are hand blown. When I was in high school and college, I spent all my summers working as a costumed historical interpreter at a place called Black Creek Pioneer Village. It's Canada's equivalent to colonial Williamsburg. It wasn't just life-changing because I learned so many manual skills, but being in that environment, in buildings that were 200 years old, utilitarian objects in these buildings were so beautiful. There were irons with little, like the handles were little swan's heads, and they didn't have to put a swan's head on that iron, but they did. That was the case with every single thing in these buildings. Useful things could be very beautiful. That really inspired me. Look at this sink. Look at this sink. It is handmade in England by Shaw's. Like everything that goes along with the whole dishwashing process now is fun because it's beautiful. Like this. Oh, hello, vintage Munich tea towel that I got when I lived in Germany. Oh, hello, hand-blown soap bottle with a little vintage spigot. Oh, hello, dishcloth that was hand-woven by my friend Deborah. And then we have the dishes. Working at Pioneer Village, I was introduced to old china and silverware. So I started collecting ironstone china. This is early American pressed glass. At an antique store, a glass like this would go for, I don't know, 30 bucks. But you can find stuff like this if you know how to spot it. You can find it at like junk stores. So people come over and they've broken stuff before and they felt really bad, and I'm like, don't worry about it. It's fine, it's just $2. If it breaks, it's fine. If the marble gets stained, it already has some spots on it, and I love them. This is my silver. Not silver plate. There's a big difference. Every fork, every spoon in there averages about $100. I collected piece by piece since I was a little kid. Like I'd get my birthday money and I'd go and buy a fork. And if you look very closely, you can see we have the lion en passant which means that that was made in London. And then we have the leopard's head, which means that it was made in Great Britain. And then we have the monarch's head. And the monarch's head on this one is a young Queen Victoria. So this was made under Queen Victoria's reign. And then we have a letter, and the letter is a Q. So let's go to our book. There's Queen Victoria's head, 1854. They didn't have electric lights in 1854. This was made by natural light or by oil lamp. I'm obsessed. These are my cutting boards, which I made. I make soap with goat's milk, coconut oil, and olive oil, and then I put a little bit of frankincense and myrrh in it. That's exclusively what I use in here. I package it up too. I call it wise man's soap, the soap that Jesus would have used. Sometimes when people talk about me, they use that phrase, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. I haven't done any butchering. Another aspect of my time in the kitchen is cooking traditional Tamil food. So my parents are from Sri Lanka, and I am Tamil. That is an ethnicity and a language for those who don't know. And it is the best food in the world. And there are some very specific tools that are required to make this food. And the stuff is just so beautiful. Like this is used for a kind of rice patty that's made with rice flour mixed with some boiling water. You put the dough in here, put the plunger in, and then you squeeze out these vermicelli noodles onto these mats that are woven with strips of bamboo. And then those little patties get steamed. So it's another added aspect of the kitchen that I love. It's this mix of New York tenement and Sri Lanka. It's always been a dream to learn something on the piano. And when the pandemic started, I thought, okay, I am going to challenge myself to learn one Chopin nocturne. I just thought, let's just take it bar by bar. One bar, that's all. At the end of a year, I can now sort of play one nocturne. It has been really fulfilling to sit down at the piano and to be able to play one of his pieces from beginning to end. A lot of the stuff in here is actually from flea markets and thrift stores. New York has great flea markets and great thrift stores. People are coming and going and dying all the time, and you can find great stuff that's really, really affordable. The coffee table in the living room was 25 bucks, a nice sort of bronze frame, but it didn't have any glass in it. So I bought it, and then I got some mirror from just a glass store, and it was actually old mirror that they cut down to size. I wanted to actually make it look antique, so I distressed the mirror myself. You take some nasty stuff called muriatic acid and you spray it on the back of the mirror, and it starts to eat away at the silver. So it happens really quickly. You just you have to time it and get it to the level where you want it. If you leave it on for too long, it'll take off all the silver. Here was a little project about my friend who's obsessed with his cat, and I thought I should write a little kid's book. And this is a little story about Bernardo's cat, Agnes. Bernardo's a hipster who lives in Brooklyn. And the cat gets angry sometimes when he leaves. This is my landscape painting, which is a copy of a painting from the 1850s by an Irish painter, George Barrett. I have always dreamed of painting landscapes, and one of the ways artists have traditionally learned how to paint is actually by copying paintings by the masters. I printed this high-res image off the internet and zoomed in and worked on this very slowly for the course of 8 months. It's oil paint, so it had to be done in layers, and the layers often would have to dry before I did the next layer. But it was a big challenge that ended up working. I love this thing. This room is why I rented this apartment, because of the wonderful light that streams in really for most of the day. These lace curtains are pure cotton. It is very, very hard to find pure cotton lace today. Most mills that made this stuff are long gone. So one of the few places left in the world where they still weave the old way is in Lyon, France. And that's where this comes from. Lace curtains fluttering in the breeze. Look what's happening. Good boy. Yeah. Yeah. I was walking down the street one day years ago, and I saw a cab stop on the side of the road, the door opened, and this fluffy thing just jumped out and ran into a building where a doorman had opened the door for him. I was like, did I just imagine this? So some very careful detective work revealed to me that Prince lived down the street, and I befriended his owners. They offered to leave him here when they went out of town. I was taking a painting class at the Art Students League, and my teacher's mantra was paint what you see, not what you know. Once when I was doggy sitting Prince, I thought, let me try painting him, and it turned out great. I was really happy with the result. I love that dog so much. I apprentice with a wonderful potter in Connecticut. Guy Wolf makes all of Martha Stewart's flower pots. He's been making flower pots for most of his life. I read about him in Martha's magazine and was determined to learn from him, so I begged him to let me come and visit, and the rest is history. I've been going there for about 10 years now. This pot was made by Guy, this beautiful pot was made by Guy, and this pot was made by me. The bed is from the 1830s, and it's actually a little shorter than a normal twin bed. But then I found out that there's a mattress maker in the Bronx, Charles H. Beckley. They have been making mattresses, horsehair mattresses, by hand. They came here, measured the bed, made this wonderful mattress. It's really, really comfortable. Look at this. The corner is hand finished. So there are hand-tied springs in here, layers of horsehair and cotton. Great mattress. Well made, made to last. Remember Deborah, my weaver friend who made my towels in the kitchen? She made this for me too. I make a lot of things by hand. So when I'm going out and buying something, I want something that is well made. I lived in Germany for a year, and a very good friend of mine was telling me that her grandmother had a saying, "Wir sind zu arme, billig zu kaufen." We're too poor to buy cheap things. I feel like my bike is my best friend. It's from 1940, it was made in Munich. I brought it back with me. It's built to last. It's a solid steel frame. It has a great bell. Art supplies take priority over clothes for me. This is the bigger closet. The canvases are up there. This is full of beautiful wool. I always have a knitting project on the go. This is a hat in progress. All my books, paper, sketch pads, oil paints. During the pandemic, I thought I would try my hand at bookbinding, and I'm kind of hooked now. I made this a few weeks ago. It's a watercolor sketchbook. You need to have proper watercolor paper in order to have the pages stay flat so that they don't buckle and curl. Let's talk clothes. Oh, hello, Marie Kondo. So when I read Marie Kondo's book, that philosophy really spoke to me, that the objects that you have in your life should be meaningful to you and should make you happy. So I did it. I condoed this place. I got rid of anything that did not make me happy. Just the things that spark joy. There was a lot more. When I was a little kid, I watched The Sound of Music and I was like, I want to dress like that. But it didn't seem possible. And then I started working at Pioneer Village and was wearing tweed in my costume, fulfilled that tweed need. When I became an adult, I commissioned some tweed suits to be made. And then I really felt like these are my clothes. This is my style. Deborah wove this cloth. This suit took about 3 years to make. the sheep. She picked 2 different sheep that were 2 shades of brown. You can see the dark and the light. Those are the 2 different sheep. It's lined with salmon colored silk. I just love it. I love the color combo. The other thing that's in this closet that I wear in the winter, I have 4 of them, are these sweaters called ganzis. They're fisherman sweaters. There's something really sentimental about these fisherman sweaters. They were a real working man's garment. Every village had their own pattern. So I found a knitting collective in Yorkshire where there's a group of women that still make ganzis the old way with real Yorkshire wool. And this is what came back. Knitted for me by Marion Brocklehurst, who is 93 this year, and she knits ganzis for Daniel Day-Lewis. It's like a hug. The clothes in there, they all have a story and they have meaning in them, and every time I put on something that was handmade, I'm thinking of the person that made it. If someone told me there was a shrine for Marie Kondo, I would go and worship at the shrine and take flowers and bow. That's how she got to me. Oh, what do we want to wear today? A nice gray t-shirt? Oh, maybe a striped one. Let's look through our blues. This space became a lot emptier after the whole Marie Kondo thing, but what it turned into was a kind of canvas, a kind of nice blank canvas for bringing things in that don't stay forever. Come in, they visit, they add joy, then they die, and my mind feels a lot lighter. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here with me. Bye.
Hi, I'm Jackie and this is my handmade home in Brooklyn, New York. I'm an artist. I do illustrations for kids' books, and then I also run an organization called Camp Remember, which is a series of summer camps. We help kids remember that it's cool to be yourself. And then I work with Medi Club as a facilitator, which is a monthly meetup of a larger organization called The Big Quiet, which are mass meditations in iconic places all over the United States. This apartment is less than 400 square feet because I lived in a 500 square foot one and this one's not even close. The first thing I did was I painted the entire apartment white because I wanted it to be that like chic Brooklyn look. The more that I stepped into that, I realized how much it wasn't me. And so the first thing that I did was say f it and go buy a bucket of orange paint and paint my cabinets bright orange. Then from there it was like, let's do it. Okay, so this painting is by my dad, Mike Cantwell. He did a series of these big heads like this in the 80s, and this is just one of my favorite paintings growing up. It was in our house, and it reminds me of home, and it's also where I got all the colors for the apartment. The wall color is me trying to match the peach in my dad's painting. So I didn't get it just right, but I feel like it really plays off of it nicely. The couch is really one of my favorite things here. It is a custom couch made from a guy that I found on Etsy who's making these things out in LA. Do I do a white couch? Do I do black? I don't know. And then there was a little bit of a pink happening in the painting. And velvet's amazing, so why not? And then this big mirror, I got it custom cut to fit that wall. So that's a cool way to open up smaller spaces too, which is why I have so many mirrors in here, because it kind of makes it seem like it's a little bit more vast than it really is. The dining area I wanted to kind of try to make separate from the rest of the house, like give it its own feel. So lighting I've found has been really helpful. That's why there's like a little lamp next to the couch, and then I have like the drop over lamp over the table. And this table is also from my family. My grandpa made it, so it feels good to have a piece like that that's like just been through so much and had so many beautiful meals and conversations over the wood. I feel like it's taken in a lot of that good juju. It folds out, so the whole top actually comes off, and then you can slide it out and it turns into a full-on table, and I can fit like at least 8 people on this thing. And then the photograph is of me. It's our family friend Doug Brown took this photo.
All right, welcome to Cantwell's kitchen. So the stripes on my walls came after the orange cabinets. I decided why not take the kitchen all the way, and I was lying in my bed and I was looking out the window on a really blue day, and I thought, oh, how cool would it be if my kitchen was that color? And I had some paints left over and I decided to do some stripes. It kind of makes it look like a little playhouse in here, which I really enjoy. DIY hit hard in the kitchen because I cook every day. Like, I cook all my meals if I can, and the kitchen's really small. There's like this much counter space, and it was like not gonna fly. So my proudest DIY is this pull-out extra counter space. It's an old microwave top from a stand that I had from college. And then I used these L brackets, just drilled directly into the wood, and found the studs on my wall to drill these L brackets into. And I'm just like, hell yeah, I did this. Like, doing DIY projects like that just like gives you a sense of like, yes, I'm a woman. And then I'll show you one more thing that I have for counter space that's been really helpful, which is this piece of wood with a lip that I can put over my sink and have extra. I have this pegboard, which is made from just regular like plywood peg. There's a window seat, which is a piece of foam that I found in Chinatown, and I found a cool piece of fabric, and I just sewed that bad boy on there, and now you got a window seat. So I got a little carried away when I figured out how easy it was to make shelves, and I started putting them everywhere. So you'll notice that there's like a few kind of maybe seemingly awkwardly high shelves. But I did that as a design element, but also so that I could fit more things, because if I put it any lower, I couldn't have opened the cabinet door. Cool, so this is my spill-off kitchen area, because I got a tiny kitchen. There's nothing I can do about this fridge being out in the living room, which is mad awkward, but what am I gonna do about it? I had this table from an old place, and I matched the yellow from the painting to give it a little oomph. And I use old mason jars because I'm trying to live like a closer to plastic-free lifestyle, and it's also a really beautiful way to display all of my dried goods. I also have this extra shelf, and this is just a design element. Like, there's no reason why that should be that high. I just kind of like it there. What do you think? And that's my Elvis clock. I got it in Graceland. I love him. I grew up loving Elvis Presley, and I was like, let me like show a little bit of my personality in here, and now it's everywhere. It's not like over the top, but there's definitely a lot of Elvis in here. I really love the bedroom. I've grown to love that it doesn't have a window and that it's like kind of small. It's just so cozy in there, and I just like feel like it's like a little hug. And this is where I sleep, so I kept it white so that it would be like nice and serene and quiet in here. One of my old buddies, Roberto Jamora, he made this painting, and it's so beautiful and calming and has that vibe that I want in this bedroom. And I decided to kind of just make it the headboard. There's a lot of items in the house that have dual purposes. Like, this is actually a little bento box that was my grandma's, but it's where I keep all of my jewelry. All these little boxes I'm really using, so they're beautiful, but they also serve a purpose. Yellow was a choice for the door because of a thing that I was learning about at the time called chromotherapy, which is where you can actually use color as therapy and to like affect your mood and to like brighten your spirit. When I see yellow, I feel happy, I feel alive and present and free, and that's why I did this yellow. And you'll notice that that kind of spills off into these affirmations that I post for myself. I change it out every couple of months, but I find that if I read them before I leave the house, it just like puts me in a good space. The frequency of these bowls and a lot of these types of instruments have the ability to just drop you back down into yourself in a way that like just like makes you feel grounded and at ease. I think the best thing that somebody could feel when they walk in here is just like they're taking a big breath. Like that they're welcome, that they can sit down, that I'm here to have full presence with them, and that they're at home. Thanks for coming by and come back again soon.
I'm Jeannie. This is my handmade home in New York City. This is Tater Tot, my English bulldog. He's 7 years old. He kind of runs the show around here. He's actually the social media manager of my business. He doesn't do a lot, except he makes some appearances on Instagram. So I have a lifestyle curation company, and what we do is help people who are overwhelmed, disorganized, and constantly stressed by mental and physical clutter. However, I also love stuff, and I'm not capable of just admiring one thing. I have to suddenly make it a collection. I'm a maximist, but I'm also an organizer, and I think what's really important is that you need to have a discerning eye, but you also need to curate and kind of keep collections and things together. In my living room, I really only have one wall in which to place a lot of art and the television, so I kind of created a salon wall and put most of my art together there. I actually have this carnival railing. It's from the UK. It's the railing on a carousel, and I didn't really have a place for it, but it ended up being perfect as like to top off the TV, because sometimes when you put art over it, it looks a little diminutive, it's small, and this was so big and it just fit perfectly, and it kind of lends itself to the cartoony, vintage, colorful feel of my apartment. This is probably my favorite collection and most active of my collections. It's Carnival Chalkware. I decided to go a little psycho and really put them all together. A lot of people think they're kind of creepy. I don't. I think they're cute. They're crudely painted, but they're not creepy. I've got the Lone Ranger, and he's got hot pink pants on. The lunchbox collection is probably my oldest collection. I don't get to buy lunchboxes too often anymore because they're so rare, and also they're really expensive. But I have been lucky enough to get a couple of my favorite. I love this dome top. That's what this style of lunchbox is called. But the Bozo the Clown dome top, I love. And then also, disco. And I went rainbow order because I felt like it just made it easier on the eyes when you looked at it, and it didn't become overwhelming. I have been coveting this wallpaper for years. It's called Luxury, and it's got rainbows and diamonds and stars and interiors of private planes and hot rods, Shelby hot rods in there. I just love it. But when you step away from it, it actually has like kind of a Japanese koi feeling to it. And I just was like, I have to live with this wallpaper. It has to be here. When I moved to this apartment, it had a great modern light that came with the apartment, but no, that's not okay for me. I had to have my pink chandelier present in the apartment. It's everything, this chandelier. I love it. It's bright, it's colorful, it's like candy to me. Instead of a traditional chain cover, I decided to insert fake flowers all the way up and kind of create this cornucopia to the ceiling, and it kind of just looks like it belongs in a garden. Normally I don't advocate having all of your collections in the kitchen. Generally I try and bring in food themed collections like my Bob Big Boy. I also have the Colonel. This just happened to be the perfect space for this. It's my bobblehead collection. The most important part of my kitchen is my yellow ceiling. I can't live without yellow paint. I have to have yellow paint somewhere in my home. So I thought that having a sunny ceiling in the kitchen was the thing that made the most sense. I have this light fixture that is from a carousel railing from the UK. I had it wired for American Standard. It's kind of like my Showtime lighting. And then we can't forget the wallpaper. So it's actually the same exact story as the wallpaper in the living room. It's in teal. I have this piece of furniture that came from IKEA in 1990, and it was just basic, but it is so indispensable that I have yet to let go of it. And I decided to cover it all up with pinup girls. I actually did these bottle caps and I filled them all with glitter and then images I love. And then you'll see the reason why I can't let go of this. It holds all my t-shirts. It's perfect. And so I get to have something fun and whimsical and colorful and kitschy and a little sexy in the bedroom. I always had this thing for toolkits as nightstands. I love it. I actually had plexi cut for the top so it's mirrored, and then inside what I ended up doing, it's got a lot of storage, but as Tater will demonstrate, I covered it all with oilcloth because one cannot have enough oilcloth in their lives. You see a little sample of the wallpaper because I literally have been begging for this wallpaper for so long. But I love it. I love that it brings a like industrial element into a very girly, pinky kind of bedroom. Thanks so much for coming and hanging with me. Bye.